Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Bellingham City Council meeting for April 10th. I have a few announcements, two of them. The first one is on Monday, April 24th, 7 o'clock here in City Council chambers. We will host a public hearing considering proposed minor land use amendments regarding a running list for the Planning and Community Development Department. Running list meaning a number of smaller items grouped together. On Monday, May 15th, from 7 o'clock to 8:30, the City Council will host a town hall meeting, the first we've ever done of this, in the Encore Room of Mount Baker Theatre with a capacity of around 90 people. The topic of the meeting is to be determined as the date approaches. We've talked about housing and low-income housing in particular this afternoon. We'll have more details in the future. Would everyone please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
April Barker.
Here.
Dan Hamill.
Here.
Jean Knutson.
Here.
Michael Lilliquist.
Here.
Roxanne Murphy.
Here.
Pinky Vargas.
Here.
Terry Borneman.
Here.
Okay, we have no public hearings tonight, so we'll go straight to our 15-minute public comment period. We have two people signed up. First, Carrie Kovaleski, please come forward, and then Patrick McKee.
Short. Bellingham has spent from our reserves within the last several years. Unless things change, we are going to sink deeper and deeper in the hole. Look at LA, Chicago, and New York. These are all cities that suffer from lack of funding and can't control their crime. You know what all these cities have in common? They are run by liberal politicians, and guess what? Their policies are not working. It is time you take a good look at the ramifications of the decisions you make. In several more years, you will really see the detrimental impact your decisions have made to the city. The economic growth or lack thereof, jobs, housing, homeless, crime. Just to name a few, we will all be significantly impacted for the worst. It is already happening. We are already seeing the impact. Your solution to the housing crisis is to build more and more low-income housing. What about your negligence of affordable housing to the middle class for families? Right now, you are creating a Bellingham that attracts out-of-town elites who pay all cash for a house, or low-skilled people who don't contribute to our economy and depend on our tax dollars. The middle class is being pushed out to nearby cities where housing prices are cheaper. The reason why Bellingham's housing prices are going up is because of the massive and expansive regulations you are putting on builders. You also don't want urban sprawl, so you won't allow land to be built and Bellingham to expand. Without the ability for new home construction, housing prices will only continue to go up. The simple supply versus demand principles. Your liberal utopia is building townhouses where we all ride our bikes to work where we make minimum wage in retail, which is the major employment industry in Bellingham. This isn't a realistic economy. Bellingham was once a coal mining and forestry town, which had good paying jobs. Homeless has grown way out of control. Your answer is using taxpayer money to keep giving them free housing and build shelters. More and more homeless are attracted to the city because of your freebies. They are moving here. If you want to build a shelter for the homeless, then you need to make it where they are drug tested, have to attend mandatory AA or drug meetings if they test positive, give them a time frame in order to stay, provide them with social workers, psychiatrists to get them on the correct meds, and make them work for these services. They can pick up the trash that they leave behind on the street corners they beg on, as well as the ridiculous amount of trash you see on the sides of the roads and on I-5. Or they can pick our food in the fields that the left is so concerned about if we don't have illegal aliens to do it. With just a shelter and no rules, you are only providing a revolving door. Those on the left believe achievers are considered the enemy and people who don't achieve are considered the victims. I know my speaking does nothing because you don't like to discuss policies with differing opinions from your own. You say you are inclusive, but you're not. You pat yourself on the back every day even though rape, crime, housing, and homelessness has gone up and you are in charge.
Thank you. Pat?
Good evening, members of the City Council. My name is Patrick McKee. I live on Grant Street in the beautiful Sunnyland neighborhood. I've come tonight to talk about the problem of affordable housing in Bellingham. There's been much discussion recently about this problem, previous speaker included. I feel that the lack of affordable housing is to be blamed on this council and the mayor because you have failed to develop the urban villages in this city. The current comprehensive plan and previous comprehensive plans have emphasized that future population is to be housed in the urban villages that we have planned in this community. I take the Old Town neighborhood urban village as an example. The city has spent thousands of dollars planning the Old Town urban village, and we've had very little population housed in this urban village. You need to do more. You need to create more incentives for people to build housing in these urban villages, to make them attractive, put parks in them, encourage the school board to put elementary schools in these urban villages. You need to make them attractive places to live. And by the way, you could invest Bellingham Home Fund money to create housing in these urban villages. Don't rely on the Bellingham Housing Authority, who oftentimes brings in low-income people from other areas. You need to identify low-income people in Bellingham who need affordable housing and provide it for them in these urban villages. This is a huge failure by this council to develop affordable housing in the urban villages which you have declared and planned for. And I hope that you will address people's concerns by doing more to provide housing in these urban villages. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. We still have a few minutes left in our public comment period. Is there anybody else who has not signed up who'd like to come forward? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to the next item. We had several committees meet this afternoon. The first one was the Parks and Recreation Committee. April Barker was its chair. Is its chair.
The chair. We only had one item today. It was for information only. We had a summary statement from the Design and Development Division of Parks and Recreation for the 2017-18 work plan. It was a pretty comprehensive and some really great pictures. So if you want to know everything that the Parks Department is doing this year and mostly focused on as far as the Design and Development Division, it'd be great if you could watch that. If you can't find that, just let us know through email. You can contact us on the web page, and we can link you directly to it. So just some highlights. We'll be having some more lighting and a 24-hour fully lit bathroom at Maritime Heritage Park. Will be going in soon. It's going to mimic a little bit of it was the Portland Loo, I think they called it, which is, it provides people restroom service, but it's also not very accommodating, so we're hoping that people will use it and will leave whenever they're done. Fever Creek Bridge, really exciting. That's going to happen this year. We're expecting that to potentially be completed by the end of May, so pass that on to your neighbors. That's a really important connection. The Blowdale Docks, we're 75% project complete on the money there, and we're looking for those improvements to happen January 2018. Whatcom Falls Park, there's going to be a new connection right off the Woburn parking lot there. We're going to improve that, and then there's going to be a trail connection that will take you up into Whatcom Falls Park. Also a pump track, so if you don't know what that is, the Whatcom Mountain Bike Coalition is going to be doing all volunteer work to build a pump track. It's where you practice your mountain biking skills, and it's actually quite aerobic. So check that out. That should be coming soon. And I think the one disappointment that we heard was the overpass to Boulevard Park is going to be no longer. So we're looking to figure out, when that was built, we didn't have great connections to get down there. Now that has been failing, so that will be closed and we will not be completing it, but we're trying to, that's how all of our utilities get down there. So currently we're trying to rework how to get our utilities down there. So know that that's not coming back, and we were all quite sad to hear that. So, end of committee.
Thank you very much. The next committee which met this afternoon was Community Economic Development, and Pinky Vargas is the chair.
Thank you, President Lilliquist. We had one item in front of us today. We had a presentation by the Small Business Development Center on the organization's 2016 accomplishments. The core services of the Small Business Development Center is business development advising. They do one-on-one, confidential, and no-charge advising. They do research and academic collaboration. The city helps fund the Small Business Center with a fiscal impact of $56,250 per year, and we are in partners with the U.S. Small Business Administration, Western Washington University, Whatcom County, and the Port of Bellingham. We all contribute to support the SBDC, and there were some great examples of some of the small businesses that have been helped throughout this year. One of the things they talked about is that a lot of their work is actually helping businesses grow. So yes, they help people start new businesses, but to all of those out there who are thinking they want to expand their business and to grow, that they're a wonderful tool in our community, and we encourage you to use them, and we are very appreciative of the resource and the support they give us in regards to economic development in the city of Bellingham. And a committee.
Okay, thank you very much, Pinky. The next committee was Committee of the Whole. We had 3 items before us. The first was Pedestrian Awareness Campaign. As our Public Works Director indicated, we spend a lot of time and energy building safer pedestrian facilities, but there's kind of a behavioral component. The 2012 Pedestrian Master Plan established the policy framework for more than $46 million in engineered pedestrian improvements. The plan also identifies program recommendations for enforcement and education. When effectively combined, the 3 E's, education, enforcement, and engineering, are proven measures in reducing the number and the severity of collisions between pedestrians and vehicles. The staff are developing an education and enforcement campaign to be implemented in the spring of 2016. So it's talked about this afternoon. One of the things staff is doing is mapping where accidents occur, not just geographically in the city, but at intersections or what sections of the street they occur at, what time of the day, who the occupants of the vehicles are, what maybe was going on, whether it was the pedestrian or the motorist that was at fault, and is looking for public messaging. And what they've discovered in the past is that fear-based messaging doesn't work, but social norming, talking about responsible driving, what good drivers and good neighbors do, is more effective. There's also an enforcement focus, having the police go out to the areas where the accidents are greatest to both catch people doing the right thing and also catch people doing the wrong thing, again, to reduce pedestrian vehicle collisions. That was for information only. The second item was an update on the Post Point Treatment Plant Biosolids Project. Basically, when we say Post Point treatment, we're talking about your sewage, and this has to do with how we treat the sewage waste. Currently, we incinerate that waste, and evaluations of the incinerators at Post Point demonstrate that the equipment has reached the end of its useful life and needs replacement. Building on previous biosolids option studies, the city retained Brown and Caldwell to further develop digestion alternatives. The study will result in both an engineering design and a long-term operation and maintenance programming. The project team proposes utilizing the triple bottom line tech methodology, which means we look at environmental, social, financial, and also technical feasibility considerations to evaluate the best options available for the digestions of solids. Staff presented today. We talked about how basically when the sewage treatment plant was expanded, we increased our capacity to handle the liquid aspect of the waste. We still have the solids to deal with. We want to do that in a way which is viable, and the current method isn't. Digestion is, but there are many different variations of digestion, different technologies. Some of them have a lot more resource recovery. You can actually use some of the organic solids as a resource to sell in the market or recover some of the energy from it. This was for information only. The staff was merely asking to see whether or not the council approved the direction they're going, and we said yes, keep going. Third item we discussed was a letter of concern regarding the federal budget. The mayor and the council have expressed concerns regarding the federal proposed funding levels, especially as it relates to housing and urban development funding levels. There was a draft letter in our package to the city's federal representatives that outlined these concerns. Basically, the city receives all sorts of funding. In 2015, it was $11.2 million worth because we had many large projects. Last year was $5 million, and this year it maybe is around $6 million in federal funding. As the letter points out, we leverage this funding. In other words, if we get a little bit from the feds, we put in local monies, grants, and also private investment to get very large projects out of this. If we lose federal funding, we lose all that leveraging as well. And the current budgets proposed by the administration actually zeroes out these long-term forms of funding. There's a letter in the packet. This afternoon, the Committee of the Whole recommended that the Council approve signing on this letter, and I so move.
Second.
Any further discussion of the letter? Terry?
Just a comment about, word on the federal budget and relating to this. They're looking at cutting the federal budget for HUD and other kinds of programs like that because we don't have money in the budget, they say. But on a whim, we can lob 59 cruise missiles at a cost of $1.4 million on a basic whim to send a message, to do nothing, without even thinking about the cost of that. What would it be like to lob $59 million towards housing or others on a whim? It's a matter of priorities, and I think we're asking, get your priorities straight. The people in this country, people looking for housing and others, need the federal government's help. Just saying.
Any further discussion? Just to make it clear, the letter is addressed to our federal delegation. All those in favor of approving signature of the letter joining Mayor Linville signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? That passes unanimously. I feel like I need to apologize. We have a very short meeting today.
Oh, you apologize. Don't apologize.
Okay. Approval of minutes. Now, I don't know if this is kind of irregular. We actually have this afternoon minutes already. Do you want to go ahead and approve them? Okay. That's fine. We'll approve them at a later date. They're already here. Look at that. That was a fast turnaround.
That's quick.
Okay. Old to new business. Well, April, go ahead.
So sadly, for many of you that have been living over in the Birchwood area, we saw Maurice close. It's been there for a decade. If you're not aware of it, it was a locally owned, many decades, maybe even 40 years, I think, 60s. Oh my goodness. Miss Lynn is retired. It was quite sudden, and so the neighborhood packed Maurice to a point, I think, of making them work far more than what they wanted to, so they were able to close a day early. And there's somebody in there currently gutting the spot and getting ready to open, so I'll leave that person to tell you their story of what they're going to be opening. So happy, sad. We should see some rejuvenation over there, but also sad to see such a legacy gone. Also, the Cordata Neighborhood Association is tomorrow at 7 p.m. The Birchwood Presbyterian Church, which is not in Birchwood neighborhood. It's actually off Cordata Parkway.
Anybody else? So one of the things that was discussed this afternoon was indeed the town hall. It's still a work in progress, but we're going to focus on housing, low-income housing, and as it interacts with community programs and also city programs. As I indicated in the announcement, that's May 15th. That's an off Monday, so it's a Monday in between city council meetings. Anything else? Okay, then we will continue on with a report from our executive session. This afternoon we had 3 executive session items. The first 2 were collective bargaining strategy sessions. We discussed the bargaining strategy for upcoming contract negotiations with city employees in 2 units, ASME 114F and IAFF 106. No action was taken. The third item was potential property acquisition. Staff provided information on a potential property acquisition. It was for information discussion only, and no action was taken on that matter as well. The next item is the mayor's report. Before we go on, Kelly, on behalf of the entire city council, our condolences over your loss.
Thank you for your beautiful flowers, and April and Pinky, thank you for my box of goodies. You know, my mom was 89 years old, and that's a great life. She lived a great life, and still, at my age of 68, having had your mom for that many years, it takes more than just a bit of time to get over it. And as you know, we lost my father a year ago at the same age, and they were married 68 years, which is pretty cool, I think. So I want to thank you for your kind thoughts, and we have a couple weeks until we do the memorial service. She didn't want any kind of memorial or any kind of, service. She wanted a party. So we're having a party at the Aftermath Club. You guys are all invited. And she hopes, I know, that people will come and reminisce and just have a great time and have the both alcoholic and non-alcoholic root beer floats that she liked. We're going to serve those and a bunch of other stuff. So anyway, thank you so much for your good thoughts and your caring for me and my family, and also for keeping the ship afloat, because I don't have to worry about any of that kind of stuff. We've got great staff and great council members, and I appreciate everything that you do for the city. Okay, I have a list of stuff here, and I also have a list of stuff here. And I guess since it's a short meeting, it's okay if I indulge all of you.
Take your time.
Take my time, okay. Well, let's go through the appointments first. So for information only, mayor's appointment of Tamara Jones, Raymond Deliker, and reappointment of Jocelyn Lindsay to the Mayor's Neighborhood Advisory Commission. For information only, mayor's appointment of Stacy Sledge and Jim Haupt to the Tourism Commission. For information only, mayor's appointment of Elaine Wood to the Community Development Advisory Board. For information only, appointment of Stacy May to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board. And for your approval, mayor's appointment of Anna Blick to the Greenways Advisory Committee.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion before us to approve Anna Blick to the Greenways Advisory Committee. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, she's approved.
I want to thank you for supporting that letter to our federal delegation. They need to understand some of the details of what could happen if that funding doesn't come through for not just the city of Bellingham, but multiple cities across the country. And I think it's important for us to let them know directly what information it is, because they also need statistics and facts to share with their peers at the federal level to make the story more real than what it is. And thank you, Terry, for your words about that. I appreciate it. The Alternatives Task Force, the Jail Alternative Task Force, had requested at the last meeting or suggested that they would like to send a letter in support of the shelter proposal. And so when we have our meeting, special meeting on Thursday, Dan and I will be there, I think. I don't see him doing anything with his head, so I wasn't sure. I am going to bring a letter requesting them to adopt for support for the shelter. When we sit through those meetings, many of the issues that come forward are what are the alternatives for people going to jail, and this is one. So I really appreciate them doing that. I have directed the Human Resources staff to do a salary survey. Not that we're bringing any recommendation forward, but if the Finance Committee that has been where this issue about salary commission has been referred wants to ever just discuss it, it'll be at your request. We are going to have a salary survey available, how the salaries in the city of Bellingham affect our operation of the city and our ability to hire and not hire, and we will share those results at your request. Finally, and this is something that this is way more detail than I think I can handle, so I don't know if you know about this. So I'm going to let Peter handle some details about Growth Hearings Board decision that was made today.
Yeah, Peter Raffato, Legal Department. So as you know, the city intervened in a challenge to Whatcom County's update to its comprehensive plan in an action brought at the Growth Hearings Management Board. And the decision came in today, which the conclusion was that there was no no violations of the Growth Management Act. And the board, the decision is appealable to Superior Court. I just wanted to highlight there was a lot of staff time, tons of staff time in the county and the city in leading up to that comprehensive plan update. And that was actually one of the things that was challenged was the process. And the opinion actually talked about the coordinated effort between the county and the city. And then there was also a significant amount of staff time just in defending the against that action itself. So that's the result we have as of today.
And I just want to add, in addition, I'm sorry, April, I jumped right in. I just wanted to emphasize what Peter said. Many times we are challenging something, we are getting information for you, we are working with some other body in order to put together a case, and many times we don't express to you how hard the staff works. And I just want you to know that what Peter said is absolutely true, that the staff puts in a lot of time getting to good results like we believe we did on this. And I just wanted to reinforce what Peter was saying.
Go ahead, Peter.
If I may, just, yeah, you know, Alan Mariner was out on vacation today, but he was, from our office, he was the one that handled that case, but he relied heavily on planning staff. Planning staff was very involved in gathering all the information necessary to present that to the board. And I think I failed to mention, you know, the reason that the city intervened is because it was really a challenge to the city's urban growth area boundaries. So,
April?
I sat in on, it was in these very chambers. It was actually very enlightening to have all of those concerns and complaints that came to us, but in little bits, and it all had to be presented together. And I thought, well, there was a lot of staff in the room, so I was shocked about how much time that really does take. And then, of course, all the lawyers' time as well. I was actually calculating it in my head as I was realizing that it was probably not going to go down. And then it was also great, if you ever get a chance to watch one of those, to hear the questions, because a lot of times people don't like the way the policy is, and maybe we need to change the policy, but it just kept going back to show us where it doesn't have that in here. You might not like it, but show us where it doesn't have it. So by the end of it, it was pretty clear where it was going to go. I think they still have something against the city, so we'll still be doing that one. But I think a lot of the concerns, I was glad to hear that they were things that we had brought up in the growth management, like looking at having a plan for our urban growth areas and things that I know that we're going to be going over this year and next, maybe even a third year. So I also wanted to thank staff for that. I was just really impressed by the seriousness, but also the time. I mean, just the amount of time when we're putting so many other things on top of you all. So thank you.
Anything else, Kelly?
Let's see. I don't think so.
Okay.
Oh, I just want to say one thing. My mother's 97, and she says she sends her condolences because your parents were part of the yacht club that went out every Friday and Saturday night and stayed there till 1:45 in the morning, and she still remembers that. So
Let's not tell a whole lot of stories.
I know, we won't tell about this.
There'll be an occasion for that. We just heard about it.
Anyway, thank you, Gene, and thank your mom.
Okay, moving along then, consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion before us to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The consent agenda is approved. We have no final ordinances. Is there any further business before the Bellingham City Council? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at
Record.